Welcome to Private Stories, where people discover who they really are. The evening was loud with laughter, clinking glasses, and the restless energy of people who rarely allowed themselves to relax. A long oak table filled most of the dining hall inside the old countryside lodge, its polished surface reflecting warm yellow light from antique lamps hanging under the wooden ceiling. Employees from the company had gathered here for what was officially called a corporate retreat, though everyone understood the real purpose. A chance to drink, joke, and forget about deadlines for a while. At the center of the table sat Madeline Walker. Her honey-blonde hair rested over the shoulders of a light beige sweater, and when she smiled, small dimples appeared near the corners of her mouth. On her right side sat her husband Adrian Walker. On her left was a young man who had recently joined the company, Logan Carter. Directly across from them, several colleagues were already telling exaggerated stories about past office disasters, and bursts of laughter rolled through the hall again and again. To an outside observer, it looked like a happy evening among friends. But Adrian felt something else moving quietly beneath the cheerful noise. Something tense. Something wrong. He watched his wife carefully. Madeline was beautiful, confident, admired by many in the company. She had built an impressive career. She managed important documents and approvals, and people respected her sharp mind. At home, their life seemed equally successful. 2 sons, 14 and 15 years old. A comfortable house in Denver, Colorado. Weekend trips. Family dinners. The kind of life many people spent years trying to build. And yet, during the last few weeks, Adrian had noticed changes. Madeline had become distant, sometimes thoughtful, sometimes strangely silent. Several times he had tried to ask what was bothering her. Each time she smiled and said everything was fine. But Adrian had lived with her for 16 years. He knew the difference between a real smile and the one she used when hiding something. The idea of the company retreat had appeared suddenly. Only one day before the trip, Madeline casually mentioned it while checking something on her phone. Tomorrow we leave for a short corporate picnic. Just one night in a countryside lodge. Everyone from the office is going. Adrian agreed immediately. He arranged for the boys to stay with Madeline's parents, who lived outside the city. Still, something in his chest felt uneasy, almost as if his instincts were whispering a quiet warning. During the bus ride to the lodge, Adrian noticed something else. Madeline talked often with Logan. Logan Carter was new in the company. Tall, charming, always smiling. The type of man who easily gained attention without trying too hard. Adrian had seen him only once before during a Christmas office party. Back then, Logan stayed mostly in the background. But today things looked different. Logan leaned closer when he spoke to Madeline. She laughed more than usual. Their conversations seemed light yet strangely private. Adrian said nothing. He simply watched. The lodge stood deep in the woods outside Aspen, Colorado, surrounded by tall pine trees that whispered quietly in the evening wind. After arrival, the employees received their rooms and quickly scattered around the building. Some went to unpack. Others walked outside to admire the forest. Madeline stepped onto the open veranda. Adrian waited a moment, then followed. When he reached the wooden terrace, he saw her standing near the railing. Logan stood beside her. They were talking animatedly. Madeline nodded while smiling. Logan leaned slightly toward her as if sharing something confidential. For a moment, Adrian felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The type of feeling that appears before a storm. At that exact moment, a young woman from the office approached him. She was petite, with short brown hair and bright, curious eyes. Adrian had seen her earlier during the trip. She spoke first, quietly. "Are you Adrian Walker?" He nodded. "Yes." She glanced toward Madeline and Logan, then asked with a playful half-smile, "So you already know about them?" Adrian frowned slightly. "About who?" She tilted her head toward the veranda corner. "Madeline and Logan." Adrian kept his voice calm. "What exactly should I know?" The woman hesitated for a second, then shrugged lightly. "Nothing serious yet. At least not officially. But there is definitely chemistry between them." almost theatrical levels of tension, like something out of a romantic drama. Adrian felt his jaw tighten, yet he forced a neutral tone. And both of them are married. The woman nodded. Yes. Logan has a wife. Her name is Vanessa. Pretty woman from what I heard. Works for another company. Adrian exhaled slowly. And you are? She smiled politely. Chloe Bennett. Nice to meet you. Adrian Walker. And just so you know, I am also not free. Chloe laughed softly. Good to know. Then she glanced back toward the veranda. Anyway, I should return to my husband. Enjoy the evening. As she walked away, Adrian remained standing still for a few seconds. The noise of laughter from inside the hall returned to his ears. But now everything sounded distant, muted. Inside his mind, one clear thought slowly formed. This trip could end very badly. From that moment, Adrian made a quiet decision. He would not leave his wife alone. Not even for a minute. Even if she clearly disliked it. And judging by the brief, annoyed glance Madeline gave him when he joined their conversation again, she definitely did. The dinner that followed looked cheerful to everyone else. But beneath the smiles, tension began spreading slowly across the table, like invisible cracks forming under polished glass. And Adrian knew, the real night had only just begun. The dinner grew louder as the night moved forward. Glasses clinked. Someone turned on music in the corner. Several employees had already begun dancing between the tables. The lodge that had seemed calm earlier now pulsed with restless energy. Madeline leaned back in her chair and studied the long table filled with bottles. Wine, whiskey, rum. Too much alcohol for what was supposed to be a simple corporate retreat. She smiled slightly and looked at Adrian. Her green eyes reflected the warm light from the ceiling lamps. Tonight you can drink as much as you want. She said it lightly, almost playfully. Drink until you forget your own name if you like. Just remember, when we get home this freedom disappears. Adrian looked at her calmly. There was a faint, ironic smile on his face. That sounds very generous. Then I suppose I should take advantage of this rare opportunity. Madeline laughed softly and raised her glass. Across the table, Logan watched the exchange carefully. He seemed relaxed, but his eyes moved constantly, observing, calculating. Adrian noticed it immediately, and he also noticed something else. Every few minutes, Logan found an excuse to start another conversation with Madeline. About work, about documents, about the company. Eventually, Adrian decided to join the discussion himself. After all, he knew the topic better than Logan expected. Years ago, Adrian and Madeline had graduated from the same university in Chicago. During the conversation, Logan casually mentioned he had studied there too. Just several years later, Adrian listened carefully, then began asking questions. Simple ones at first. Names of professors, courses, departments. Within 2 minutes, Adrian understood something important. Logan Carter had never studied there. Not even close. The man hesitated when naming professors. Mixed up departments. Mentioned a building that had never existed. Adrian did not expose him immediately. But inside his mind, the quiet suspicion hardened into certainty. Logan was lying. The music suddenly became louder. Someone connected an old speaker system near the wall. The sound screeched painfully for a moment, then stabilized. Adrian stood up, walked toward the equipment, examined the cables, twisted one wire, switched 2 connectors. The music softened and became clearer. People applauded jokingly. Apparently, Adrian had just become the unofficial technician of the evening. An hour later, the celebration began slowly fading. People grew tired. Some couples wandered toward their rooms. Others stepped outside to breathe the cold mountain air. Madeline stretched slightly and looked at Adrian with a half-amused expression. Well, should I escort you to your room? She teased gently. You drank enough tonight to need assistance. Before Adrian could answer, Logan suddenly stood up. I can help, he said quickly. But Adrian responded immediately. his voice calm, almost cold. No need. I am perfectly capable of walking on my own. Madeline looked at him suspiciously. Are you sure? You drank a lot. Adrian shrugged. Do you think I need to be carried? A small smirk appeared on his face. I am completely sober. Madeline blinked in surprise. That is strange. I watched you drink half the table. Adrian simply smiled. They remained sitting together for another 15 minutes. The room had almost emptied. Finally, Logan stood and excused himself. Good night, he said quietly, then walked upstairs toward the second floor. Adrian watched him go. He remembered clearly. Room number 1, second floor. Later, Adrian and Madeline also returned to their room. The hallway of the lodge was dark and silent. Only distant music echoed faintly from somewhere below. They changed clothes and lay down. Madeline quickly drifted into sleep. But Adrian remained awake. His mind refused to rest. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Finally, Madeline slowly sat up in bed. She slipped on a light robe. Adrian spoke without opening his eyes. Where are you going? Madeline froze slightly. You are awake. Just cannot sleep. She answered. I want some fresh air. Adrian sat up, pulled on a gray tracksuit, then quietly followed her outside. The night air was cool and smelled of pine. Moonlight covered the wooden porch with pale silver light. On a bench near the entrance someone was sitting, smoking. Logan Carter. When he saw Madeline, his face brightened instantly. But that expression disappeared just as quickly, because Adrian stepped onto the porch behind her. Logan cleared his throat awkwardly. Could not sleep. Adrian asked calmly. Logan shrugged. Just wanted a cigarette before bed. Adrian leaned casually against the wooden railing. You know, smoking slowly kills you. Logan forced a small laugh. I do not smoke often. Only good cigarettes. Adrian tilted his head slightly. Good cigarettes. I doubt those exist. They all destroy the body eventually. He paused, then suddenly changed the topic. By the way, why did you not bring your wife? Logan blinked. My wife? Yes. Adrian smiled politely. Vanessa. She would probably enjoy this place. The reaction on Madeline's face was immediate. Her eyes widened slightly. Clearly, she had not known Logan was married. Adrian noticed, but continued calmly. Many people came with their families. We could have brought our boys as well, but we left them with grandparents. What about your children? Where are they now? Logan shifted uncomfortably. With my wife and her parents. They went to the ocean for vacation. Adrian nodded slowly. Interesting. Logan quickly finished his cigarette. Well, I should go to sleep. Good night. He left almost immediately, clearly unwilling to continue the conversation. Madeline and Adrian remained outside for several more minutes, walking slowly across the wooden yard. Neither of them spoke. The silence between them felt heavier than any argument. Eventually they returned to the room. Madeline fell asleep almost instantly, but Adrian lay awake for a long time, watching the shadows move across the ceiling, thinking, planning, because now he understood something clearly. The story was far from over. Morning arrived quietly. Soft sunlight slipped through the thin curtains and filled the small lodge room with pale golden light. Madeline was still asleep. Her long blonde hair spread across the pillow like liquid honey. Adrian sat on the edge of the bed already dressed, freshly showered, calm, watching her. He slowly moved his hand and gently brushed a strand of hair away from her face. Madeline stirred and opened her eyes halfway. What are you doing? Her voice was sleepy. Adrian smiled softly. Many people are already awake. Some went for a walk. Breakfast will start soon. Time to get up. Madeline stretched slowly. You are already ready. As you can see. Adrian answered lightly. Today we return home. The rest of the morning passed quickly. Adrian stayed beside Madeline the entire time. Not in an obvious controlling way, but close enough. watching, observing. Logan tried several times to start conversations with her, but Adrian always appeared next to them almost immediately. By noon, everyone had packed their bags. The company bus stood waiting outside the lodge. Employees loaded luggage. Someone complained about a headache from too much whiskey. Someone else laughed loudly, remembering last night. Madeline sat beside Adrian on the bus ride back to Denver. She looked out the window most of the time. The mountains slowly disappeared behind them. Neither of them mentioned the night before, but the silence between them felt fragile, like thin ice. When the bus entered the suburbs, Adrian suddenly recognized a familiar street. The house of Madeline's parents. Their sons were staying there. Near the driveway stood Adrian's dark gray Toyota Highlander, a reliable car built for long trips and bad roads. As the bus slowed near the stop, Adrian noticed Chloe Bennett sitting several rows ahead. She turned slightly. Their eyes met. For a moment she bit her lip nervously, realizing exactly who she had shared her gossip with. Adrian simply gave a small polite nod. Later, after warm greetings with Madeline's parents and quick stories about the trip, Adrian and Madeline drove home with the boys. The house quickly filled with noise again. Their older son Lucas immediately began explaining some school project. The younger one, Noah, talked about fishing plans and video games. Madeline went to the kitchen to start preparing dinner. Adrian sat with the boys in the living room, helping them finish a small mechanical model they were building together. For a while, everything looked perfectly normal. A peaceful family evening. Until Lucas suddenly said something unexpected. "Dad, this morning Grandma went to the market. She bought fresh mushrooms. She fried them for breakfast. Said the forests are full of them right now." Madeline immediately turned from the stove. "You ate mushrooms?" Her voice carried clear alarm. Lucas nodded happily. "They were really good." Adrian looked at her calmly. "We should call your mother and tell her not to feed the boys wild mushrooms. Can be dangerous." Madeline frowned. But they were with adults. Nothing happened. Noah suddenly brightened with excitement. "Dad, can we go to the village and pick mushrooms with your parents?" Adrian glanced at the clock. 7 in the evening. He smiled slowly. "Why not? If we leave quickly, we will reach the village by 10. And tomorrow morning we can go into the forest." Madeline looked at him in surprise. "Adrian, you have work tomorrow." He leaned back in his chair calmly. "Vacation starts in 10 days. And I still have a week of unused days off." He picked up his phone. Within minutes he spoke briefly with his manager. The answer came quickly. "No problem." Lucas and Noah jumped up immediately, already running toward their room to pack. "Should we bring fishing rods?" Noah shouted from the hallway. "Of course," Adrian replied. The boys disappeared, laughing and arguing about what to bring. Madeline stood near the kitchen counter, watching Adrian carefully. He sat quietly at the table, slowly pushing salad around his plate with a fork. Then finally he looked up. "Madeline." His voice was calm, but cold. "I am not a child. I understand everything. You like Logan. At the retreat, I was like a splinter between you two. Everything you hoped would happen did not happen because I was there." Madeline stared at him in shock. "Adrian, are you serious? You are jealous of Logan. That is ridiculous. Where did these thoughts even come from?" "Madeline," Adrian interrupted quietly, "do not continue. Later you may regret your words. I am not asking you to confirm anything. For me it is already obvious." Madeline shook her head. "How could you even think that? What happened to you?" "Nothing happened," Adrian replied. "I simply understood everything. We will stay in the village with the boys for a week. What happens after that depends on you." Madeline felt the floor disappear beneath her. "What proof do you even have? What are these accusations based on?" Adrian looked directly into her eyes. "Proof matters to you, not to me. You must decide. Do you need this family? Or is Logan more important?" "I have not made my final decision yet." but the disrespect you showed at that retreat. I am still thinking about it. And one more thing. If your admirer appears in this apartment while I am gone, there will be consequences. At that moment, the boys rushed back into the kitchen. Dad, we are ready. Adrian calmly placed his fork down, stood, walked to the bedroom. Within minutes, he packed a small bag with documents, a tracksuit, and house slippers. Then he returned, without another word, and left the apartment with the boys. Madeline remained alone in the silent kitchen, and deep inside, she knew something terrifying. Adrian was not wrong. The entire retreat, the entire idea, had been created for one reason: Logan Carter. She had hoped Adrian would refuse to go. He always hated corporate retreats, called them pointless, a waste of time. But this time, he came, and everything collapsed. Logan had been charming, funny, attentive. He knew exactly how to make her laugh. And slowly, without noticing, Madeline had begun enjoying the attention. But Adrian had destroyed the illusion with one simple truth. Logan was a liar, and married. Madeline sat alone for a long time, looking at her reflection in the dark kitchen window. She understood something clearly now. If even the smallest chance existed to save her marriage, she would fight for it, because losing Adrian was something she could not survive. The road to the village stretched through dark forests and quiet, empty highways. Adrian drove calmly. Lucas and Noah talked excitedly in the back seat about fishing and mushrooms. But Adrian barely listened. His thoughts were somewhere far away. The small village in Montana where his parents lived had always been a place of peace for him. A place where the air smelled of pine and earth, where problems seemed smaller, and life moved slower. They arrived late at night. Lights still burned in the windows of the old wooden house. Adrian's mother, Margaret Walker, opened the door almost immediately. Her warm smile widened when she saw the boys. "Oh my goodness, look at you two. Already taller again." She hugged them both tightly. Adrian's father, George Walker, appeared behind her. A tall, gray-haired man with calm, steady eyes. "Looks like the forest will lose all its mushrooms tomorrow," he joked. The boys laughed. Within minutes, the house filled with familiar warmth. Later that night, Adrian sat outside on the porch, listening to the quiet countryside. Far away, a dog barked once. Then silence returned. He thought about Madeline, about their 16 years together, about their sons, and about the thin line between suspicion and truth. Meanwhile, back in Denver, Madeline sat alone in the apartment. The silence around her felt unbearable. For the first time, she allowed herself to admit the truth. Yes, Logan had fascinated her. His confidence, his attention, the subtle flirting. It had been intoxicating. But Adrian was something completely different. Adrian was her life, her foundation, her family. Without him, everything would collapse. Late that night, she made a decision. She packed a small suitcase and left the apartment. The drive to the village took almost 4 hours. Dark highways, empty gas stations, endless forests. By the time Madeline arrived the next evening, the sky was already glowing orange from the sunset. Adrian's mother opened the gate when she saw the car. Madeline greeted her politely, trying to hide the nervous tension inside her. "Where is Adrian?" she asked quietly. Margaret wiped her hands on her apron. "He took the boys to the local club building. Our community center. The equipment there is ancient. Adrian used to repair it when he was young. The director asked him to look at it again." Madeline thanked her and walked toward the center of the village. Music could already be heard from inside the building. Loud, energetic. When she entered the hall, she stopped. Several young couples were dancing slowly in the middle of the room. And among them, she saw Adrian. He was dancing with a woman. The woman was small and graceful. Dark hair tied in a loose ponytail. Simple jeans. Light sports jacket. Yet she moved with natural elegance. Adrian wore an old shirt he kept in the village. But even in that simple clothing he looked strong, confident. They looked like the most beautiful couple on the floor. Something hot and painful exploded inside Madeline's chest. Jealousy. Sharp. Unexpected. But she forced her face to remain calm. At that moment Lucas and Noah ran toward her. "Mom, you came," they shouted happily. They began telling her excited stories about the forest, about a snake they saw earlier. Madeline barely heard them. Her eyes stayed fixed on Adrian. The music stopped. Adrian politely bowed to his dance partner, then walked toward the sound equipment to turn it off. The evening was ending. People slowly began leaving the hall. Finally Adrian approached Madeline. "Hello." His voice was neutral. "What happened?" Madeline crossed her arms. "Nothing. I came to see my husband, and apparently he is already enjoying village life with someone else." Adrian frowned slightly. "Madeline, I did not meet anyone. That was Olivia Carter. We went to school together here. She is my neighbor." Madeline looked away for a moment. From the outside it looked very nice. Adrian's voice became colder. "Maybe, but I take my wedding vows seriously. I would never do what you almost did." Madeline felt her heart sink. Adrian continued quietly. "By Friday I will have answers to several questions. After that I will consider myself free from those vows." Madeline stepped closer. Her voice trembled slightly. "Adrian, please. Nothing happened between Logan and me. If something serious had happened." Adrian interrupted calmly. "We would not be speaking peacefully right now. But you betrayed my trust. And he betrayed his wife. When his family returns from vacation, he will continue living happily, while you may remain alone among the ruins of this marriage." Madeline tried to speak. "Please let me explain." Adrian shook his head. "Not now. If you speak, it must be the truth. I will know if you lie, and I do not want lies. Besides, we are almost home. We will talk after dinner. I have told nothing to my parents, and nothing to the boys." Dinner that evening passed quietly, almost painfully polite. After the boys went to sleep, Adrian's mother cleaned the kitchen. Madeline helped her, trying to appear calm. George had already gone to bed. Finally the kitchen became empty. Only Adrian and Madeline remained. Madeline looked at him directly. "I do not want to wait until Friday." Adrian leaned against the table, his face unreadable. "Then speak." Madeline inhaled slowly. "I took time off work. Then vacation. After the vacation I planned to quit." Adrian raised an eyebrow slightly. "Continue." "Yes. Logan did attract me. He flirted carefully, politely, and I allowed myself to enjoy it. But when you spoke to him at the table, I realized something. He lied about the university, and he hid the fact that he had a wife and children." Adrian remained silent, listening. "After you left," Madeline continued, "I looked at my life, at our life, and realized how stupid I had been. I love you, cannot lose you. I want to grow old with you." She paused, her voice shaking slightly. "What I did was wrong, and I have no excuse. But I want to fix everything. I will do anything. Please give me a chance to rebuild your trust." Adrian asked quietly, "Did you plan something with him during the retreat?" Madeline shook her head. "No. But if you had not been there, something might have happened. Your presence stopped both of us." Adrian studied her carefully. She continued, "Today I refused to sign all his documents at work. Everything must be corrected. I wrote a report, submitted my vacation request, and my resignation letter. The director only signed the vacation, not the resignation. He said he will check Logan's background, because someone who studied at that university should know basic things." Madeline looked directly into Adrian's eyes. "On the way here my colleague Chloe called. Logan already submitted his resignation and disappeared. He did not even wait for payment. All his work was transferred to her." Adrian asked quietly, Did he try to contact you? Several times. I did not answer. We have nothing to talk about. Madeline exhaled slowly. I came here because I could not wait for you to return home. Everything is in your hands now. Adrian remained silent for a long moment. Finally he spoke. Tomorrow morning I promised the boys we will go fishing. You can come with us if you want. Then he looked at the clock. It is late. We should sleep. Madeline felt both relief and fear, because she understood something clearly. The hardest part of rebuilding trust had only just begun. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Visit our channel for interesting and intriguing stories.